You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Double Doc Talk Show. We are very excited today to be talking with Zachary Foust, or Zach Foust. Really amazing young man. We're talking about, of course, the economy, real estate, and veterans. What else are we going to talk about on the Double Doc Talk Show? Why wouldn't we? All right, Zach, so how are you doing today?
Doing great after hearing such a fire intro, man. I've been on
Thank
a few podcasts. I haven't heard quite the intro like that. How long you been using it?
3 minutes.
That was the first one?
No.
Oh, I was about to say, I felt so honored.
You should. Dude, our intro song is an amazing piece done by Core, a group of guys that I went to audio engineering school with, and we actually launched the Devil Doc Talk Show with a group of them. Doug Smith, Jonesy, Garrett Jones, Doc Jacobs, and myself. And when they put that song together, I said, hey, let's use that for our intro. And so it's been 12 years running, bro.
How cool, Joey. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for having me. Thank you for creating the space. My name is Zachary Foust. I've been in real estate for 9 years. Before that, I served in the Army National Guard, but took on 6 years of active duty service during that time. Did my 1 year overseas in Afghanistan. Came back, didn't really know what direction my life was going to go. Kind of went the direction a lot of veterans think should go. So, okay, law enforcement. That seems like the lowest barrier of entry. Got into Department of Corrections. Only
Nice.
did that for about a year, though, until somebody said, Zach, why are you in prison? Like, I know you're on the right side of the bars, but you got a little bit too much energy out there to not try sales. And she was in real estate. She pestered me all summer, eventually signed me up for the course, didn't pay for it. I had to go in debt to just pay the $500. Was not good with my money at all, especially post-deployment. And from there, it built into a career. It started really on social media because I didn't know how else to find people. And in the last few years, it's kind of shifted, very much shifted because the market shifted. And I did not get raised as this entrepreneurial capitalist. I was not bred in a family that was abundant in wealth. In fact, once my team started to take off, I brought my father on. And in doing so, he was able to pay off their debt. And now they're living a better lifestyle. And I'm very proud of being able to create my own family wealth by extending it a generation. But now we're in a different world altogether. And we still sell homes. We're still the number one team in Southern Delaware, but my national voice that, God bless, I've been able to obtain over the last few years has been squarely focused around advocacy for housing affordability and advocacy for fewer billionaires having corporate oligarchic control over our economy.
Dude, I love that so much.
I don't. It's a dark topic.
No, I love it so much because here's the thing, and I love that you said it that way, that it's a dark topic. I've pretty much cornered the niche market on talking about the darkest, deepest shit you can imagine. Okay, whether it's complex or not, right? Everything, if it's a problem, it has a solution. Okay, if there's an up, there's a down. If there's a left, there's a right. All those, great Gnostic like evaluations, right? But when we look at life and we just kind of cower away from what you just brought up. What do you mean billionaire oligarchies? We live in the United States. What do you mean, right? We're free. We have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever amendments, right? We have like titleage. We have veterans, for God's sake, right? You are what do you mean an oligarch or billionaire? How does that work out? Is it real? Like really happening? Or is that just a theory?
It's really happening. It's no longer a theory. I think it's been easier to see, disseminate, and link to data points and sources today via social media, but it's not something that's esoteric to today. We've had people yell about this for decades. That you can look at the author of Creature of Jekyll Island. Dude's the typical nut that's talking about, the government owns that. He sounds crazy, but everything he's saying is spot on. And what's funny about that is anytime you see a documentary, movie, TV show, and there's that person who's like, the government's out to get us. The billionaires are doing it. They're always like crazy, disheveled, dirty outcasts. They're just branded to look like weirdos.
Yeah.
But I think between the different influencers, and there's a lot of different you can pick from the pool of where you get your anti-government information. A lot of it is now not just, okay, I'm saying it on a camera, I'm saying it in a microphone. Here's the document, here's the archive, here's the connection, here's the picture, here's what we actually know. And I think it really helps too when we have live data analysis, live fact checking against what people are saying as they're saying it, because we can do that today. When
Yeah.
go out, when conferences are held, we can immediately go to, okay, how factual is that versus how political is that and why? And that's what I've spent my time doing, is really fact checking political pundits and leaders against what they're stating, against what they're saying to return votes, get approval rates up, get deals signed versus what's actually factual. And it is true. From the 86% of our stock market being owned by three major oligarchic banks and private funds, to Citizens United in 2010, bearing the entryway for all billionaires through super PACs to invest as much as they would like into political candidacy, from the Federal Reserve knocking on BlackRock's door to consult them in 2008 and 2020, the two crashes we had, to print more money and sell mortgage assets to them. It seems that every time that banks get bailouts, families get foreclosures, and they get us to fight over with our neighbors so that they can buy neighborhoods. And it's been going on for decades, and we got to do something to stop it.
Dude, I 100% agree with you. Okay. And it's such an empowering and important kind of conversation that, yeah, it's a nerve. What do you mean billionaires can leverage this lawsuits and buy out entire bulk purchases worth of what neighborhoods, right? I listened a little bit on what you discussed on your shows and everything else, and even other shows that you've done, because it was intriguing to me that in the United States, a long time ago, I learned about China coming in through other corporations and buying out farmland literally adjacent to bases. One
Oh,
was right
goodness.
there in NFL Centro. And I'm like, I'm serving there. I'm like, dude, this is a very interesting situation going on here. And then many years later, yeah, people are actually discussing it, right? In this situation, it's a little bit more insidious. 2006, 7, and 8, when the market crashed, right? When I came home from Iraq, I purchased land, property, right? And it was supposed to be the best investment of life, right? And you can't lose, all the markers, all the things that you look for in an investment was there. Then comes 2008. Okay. In 2008, everybody ballied up, but I held on because I just got a bonus. I'm doing the good thing. I'm, making my payments, all that stuff. Right. So I missed all those opportunities to kind of cash out on a negative investment at that time. 2012 comes around. Okay. Bam. This is just, we come straight out of the military. We're looking, me and my wife and my new family, right? We're looking at just upside down investment with the properties. And it was just terrifying because we ended up having to go bankrupt and then homeless just to recuperate what we lost. And I mean, it was just astronomical. Like our houses that we bought was like, one of them was 170, not a large investment, right? But when you have to turn around and short sell it for 23 and you're still upside down, yes, they let us cut loose, right? That was a good thing. But ever since then, it's like, holy shit, we can't catch up. Markets changed, things changed, and now people like yourself, you're telling the truth about why is it so difficult to be competitive in the real estate market, to go, hey, I'm just a family with Tom, Dick, and Harry. Maybe it's a gay family, I don't know. Maybe it's Mary, Jim, and Henny, right? And they're just going in trying to get their very first house, right? Now you can't write letters to tell people, hey, this is what we want to do with the home and this is how important it is. At least in California, they blocked it.
Yeah,
You
most throughout the country, you can't do that anymore.
and it's really intriguing, right? Why is that?
It's seen as steering. It's against the Fair Housing Act of 74 because you're not allowed to discriminate on anything but money. That's the
Oh,
only thing you're allowed to discriminate by. And when you're like, for example, familial status is one of the protected classes. So when you say me, my wife, and my two kids want this property, you're breaking the Fair Housing Act right there
oh,
by technicality. Now, an agent is allowed to say, this is a normal everyday family looking to buy it. Like I can disseminate to them what they plan to do with the home if I'm told by that other agent or seller. Absolutely.
oh.
But for the buyer to say, you should give this home to me because of X, technically is against the Fair Housing Act and why it got barred because it got popular around COVID.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know that, dude. Look
Yeah,
at
the,
me.
the Fair Credit Housing Act was actually very interesting because before 1974, unless you were a white man, you couldn't even get a mortgage.
Really?
Yeah, you are allowed to discriminate off rate based off home sales and lending practices. So you could walk into a bank as a black man making money, and they could say your wife's income doesn't count, and we just don't want to work with you. You could be a white male, and they could say your kid that doesn't matter. Your wife doesn't. They were allowed to fully discriminate. If you were gay, if you were anything, they could discriminate. If you were handicapped, they could discriminate. And they're like, we got to stop doing this. People that have merit, people that have financial qualifications, we're far past the Civil Rights Act at this point. We need to make a change. But what's interesting about that is now we get into why we're at the problems we're at today, because it is an intertangled web. One of the big issues for someone who's listening to this is like really in the weeds as to why housing is the way it is. Most rabbit holes lead back to zoning. And zoning is right now in America, 75% of American land is zoned to single family residential. That's a problem when we need more vertical builds with condos and apartments, when we need more townhomes, adjacent condo units that are affordable. When the 4-bed, 3.5-bath home is literally what you have to build based off zoning. And there is zoning that says, hey, like on my personal home right here, it's called middle residential, middle urban residential. I can't rebuild a home if I tore this down smaller than 1,500 square feet. So it really limits what type of home can be built, all while expenses for everything to build a home, get labor for the home, pay off fees for the home, permitting, infrastructural costs all get in the way. You're about 50% in on the total cost of the home before you even order a piece of shingling. So it really makes it difficult for builders to build affordable housing. And I'm sure we'll get into how we can solve some of these problems. But it just goes to show those zoning laws, for the most part, were locked in by 1971. So what does that tell us? Before anyone other than a white head of family male could get a mortgage or buy a home, we went ahead and set in stone what was going to get built and why. They're inherently racist and discriminatory.
Now, I did hear about that whole, I think it's called redlining or something like
Redlining,
that
yep.
back.
Steering and redlining.
Okay. Now,
Those
I
are the
did
two
hear about
main
that.
discriminatory practices.
That isn't so. My mind is just blown right now because one, you're bringing up some very great important factors, right? To me personally, I served briefly on the community board here where I live, and it's impossible for us to have any interested party invest in our unincorporated area because of the zoning. It's a nightmare. It's even a nightmare to get better fire department buildings built up out
Oh,
here.
yeah. Once you get into commercial and industrial zoning, there are so many different subsects of what you can and cannot build. It makes it difficult.
That's so interesting because to me, you can't even intrigue a potential investor because there's so many barriers to this, right? There's a great property right down the road from where I live, 425 acres. We did a whole pitch on, how could we utilize it? It would be a community plaza, education, medicine, long-term living, all this beautiful stuff, right? Education, entertainment, right? Our area is landlocked. It's very isolated. And there's only one road in and one road out pretty much. Okay. So the next fire, we're all fucked. Okay. And everybody knows it because that's one of the most important things here in California is fire insurance, right? So no matter what we do to kind of I want to say reduce our exposures to threats, right? Such as fire. The fire department just, put up temporary buildings. They're going to be putting up a helipad, but the state and the county, right, does not understand that this region can't support influx of persons, period, yet, because there's too many choke points. Okay, so the physical landmass, it's just a nightmare. If you try to get the amount of population out in time, in 2007, there was a horrible fire up here. And what we learned were that was inadequate escape routes. Okay, horses got burnt up. It was the saddest thing besides what just recently happened. Everybody knows what happened in Palisades, right? And in it, there's those layers of those intricacies, like you're saying at the beginning of the conversation, those layers and layers and layers of technicalities where you're like, geez, you have to literally be the subject matter expert in any and everything just to get something built. And that's where, where your solutions kind of come into kind of that crossroads, right? Uh, how do you tell people that a high rise or a 3-story or a condo is the best interest in a rural area? How do you develop rural areas when everybody's kind of in that, the current political state where everybody's like, oh no, I'm the left and I'm the right, and you guys are like, oh, you guys are neighbors and you both love horses. What's going on? It's
Well,
just crazy.
I'll answer your question after pointing out the fact that you pointed out one of the most honest, true statements of all time. So anybody that takes 2 thumb scrolls of my profile on Instagram is gonna realize I do talk about more than just housing. I'm talking about inflation. I'm political pundit fact checking. I'm deep diving historical data points. I'm creating an entire timeline of exactly how the Epstein hoax isn't a hoax. I'm going every direction from Palestine to property. And the reason being is because it all connects. Our very country supporting another's war, whether righteous or not, is the exact money that could go toward a first-time homebuyer fund or a fund for a builder to be able to build affordable properties. It's the exact lobbying is the exact reason from the corporate level, the billionaires level, that keeps the politicians moving in the directions that only feed the wealthy, only feed the investment portfolios, and not the working modern family. And when I work in real estate and I accidentally get a VIP front row seat to watching that get ripped out from underneath the working class, it makes you wonder and it makes you think. And every time I get to a new segment of history, oh, now I got to learn what these regulations really mean. Now I got to really understand this tax bracket system and how Reagan jacked it up. I have to understand how 1913's Federal Reserve truly created the core of billionaire control. And 1944 was our first attempt at globalization. Like, you have to get into them. And you're right. And I'm not a subject matter expert, but I'm learning as much as I can from all these different variants of history and data backed fact to understand why are we here and no one wants to seem to solve the problem. Now,
That's perfectly
to your
stated.
question, why don't I get to discuss, hey, why don't we do these things to solve X problem? Simple answer is because nobody I'm in communication with has the power to do that. Now, that's what my goal is with my platform, my show and my social media platforms, is to continually grow a platform large enough that can create systemic change long term for the next generation. I think relationships are more important than degrees, and awareness can build you a long-standing brand around whatever you're passionate about. And I happen to be passionate about housing affordability and advocacy. So I do have solutions that I could present, and I do talk about them often, but I really need to make everyone clear and understand that creating affordable housing, or God, lowering home costs, is not of the benefit of the greater American. It's for sure not a benefit to the greater billionaire. So I wanted to share a stat with you that I dog marked in my, or was it dog eared, earmarked something in my green book, which is the book that I utilize on many occasions to take notes. I just took down note, and now I'm not gonna be able to find it on. Okay, here it is. This is the forecast of the aggregate of over 100 economists as to what home prices will be in the following year and 4 years. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to read the 4 year, the aggregate. So this is all of them culminated, all of these economists together. The most low, like the lowest, most just the housing market is really not going to do well is in the next 4 years. It's up 6.7%. So that's the worst case scenario according to these macro economists. The median was 17.6% increase. That means that the $400,000 home has now gone to about 470,000. And the high of the median on these 100 economists for 4 years was 27.4%. 27.4%. That would have the $400,000 home now at 515. That same $400,000 home that was 260 4 years ago, now at 515. We're now at a point where we're talking about prices doubling. And I've told people this before, and we can get right into it because I know you at the beginning of this, but before we got on, we wanted to talk about this very topic. I think home prices have a much better chance at doubling than crashing.
Doubling. See, and that's something that I really kind of been looking at. It doesn't seem like this is going to pop, whatever it is that's happening external to. I think there's a lot after the stock market thing that just happened on and the is it Bitcoin?
Oh,
The
I
digital.
disagree with you on the pop. We're
You do.
destined for a pop. But
Ooh.
but here's the deal. We've only had 2 pops in history that dropped the housing market. Joey, do you know that housing has never caused a housing market crash?
No,
Never has.
no? What
Never.
caused the crash was the lending then, right? Or what was the mechanism behind that? Because there's a lot of people asking questions right now, especially me, wondering, going, "Hey, if we over leverage ourselves, we get the double dipping, right? You use whatever you got in your house, the equity, and then you buy another house, and then it doubles within 4 years, right? That would be a great. That would be great. Okay, to have
Yes,
the
it would be
confidence,
fantastic. Yep.
to have the confidence in it. But this is where my wife and I constantly stay up at night, going, "Hey, what if, okay, tomorrow morning X, right?" And that's where, there's a lot of that where when I found your resources in your conversation, I was like, okay, hold on. 100%. He's not just talking about the market in the real estate and the economy. He's actually putting dots together and saying, hey, people are saying we don't have money, but we're over here spending billions of dollars over there. We're $1 billion over here, 100 million to figure out why gay frogs
20 billion to Venezuela, or I'm sorry, Argentina. Yeah.
yeah. And for reasons that don't make any kind of sense, that don't lead to a rational, like you said, solution. So when you bring that up right now, where, hey, there has been that pop, there has been two. What does it look like that crash is going to be then? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be like, where do we shore up and where do we like start digging for the next seeds? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, to put it plainly, we only have 2 crashes in history, and the definition of a crash is for more than a year, home prices were down more than 10%. And if you were to ask the modern American where they want home prices to go down to from here, a lot of stats say anywhere between 30 and 42% is how far home prices would have to drop to bring back 2000, 2001, or 2021 affordability, 2020, 2021. And that would be in culmination with rates having to drop too. So I don't think that happens. I think we have a wage problem, when it comes to affordability. We have a greed from the top. People were paying money. There was a lot more consumer spending going on from 20 to 2023. That led to companies growing. Now, I want to be very clear because I just said it's definitely going to pop. And I'm also saying home prices more than likely double. These two things do coexist. And I want to be clear about that. So the 2 crashes we had, 1929 through 1934. And quarter 4 of 2006 to quarter 3 of 2008. Those are the only 2 times we've had home prices drop more than 10% in our history. What caused both? Bank failure. Both of them were caused by bank failure. Now, the Federal Reserve could have stepped in and stopped the Great Depression from happening. There's a great book by Milton Friedman. It was acknowledged by Ben Bernanke in 2001 at his Chicago birthday party, saying, hey, you said the Federal Reserve caused and could have prevented the Great Depression. And you're right. We're sorry, but because of people like you, it'll never happen again. It's admitted. And in 2008, more specifically, I think it was 2007, actually, that the crash of Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, no, it was 2008, in March and September, caused the credit freeze that led to banks not lending with one another, banks not even giving mortgages to people anymore. And because we had so many subprime mortgages divvied out to people who could not buy homes, they were giving out these things called ninja loans, which is no income, no job, no assets required. They just looked at your credit score. It's the same like if you went in today to Home Depot and got a loan. It's the same thing. The little tablet, it's like, how much do you make? Are you double checking it? Okay, 120,000. Like, okay, what's your credit? Okay, good, you're approved. That's it. And you could get a house. So imagine how many people had houses that could not pay on them. And the biggest part about this, they had adjustable rates, meaning that $1,000 payment they were given when the credit started to freeze, when the bank started to fail, when banks stopped lending to one another, rates went up. Rates went up to the point where people had to sell and nobody was buying. So we get the market crash of housing. But understand, housing didn't cause the crash. Poor lending practices and a bank failure leading to a credit freeze did. So when people say, oh, people aren't buying, it's going to crash. That's not how it works, because there's just as many people not selling because they got a 3% mortgage rate in 2021, or they refinanced their mortgage in 2022, and there's zero reason for them to sell. They would much more switch grocery stores or take their kid out of childcare, sell their car before they get rid of their just razor thin, cheap mortgage. Also, 39.6% of properties in America, 39.6% of properties that are single families don't have a mortgage attached to them. As of this quarter, 33% of homes that are purchased that are single family affordable, 33% are purchased by investors. What's going to force them to sell? We're in a completely different market. But here's the deal. Because of the money printing that happened since '08, because of all 4 bouts of quantitative easing, you know quantitative easing, right?
No.
You don't?
No, but that sounds great. It
Oh
sounds like
my goodness.
something
Okay,
that
we got
should
to talk
be
about
happening.
quantitative easing.
Please do, because
Here's
that's
it. This is it right here. If people want to know why our market feels like it's heavy at the top and small on the bottom, and like we're in this K-shaped economy where some people are doing great and other people are struggling, it's because of QE. We printed money, over $7 trillion, to buy bonds. I'm going to explain this as simply as I can. In 2008, no one was getting a mortgage. Why? People were losing their job, people couldn't get their home sold, and rates had gone high. But why were rates high? Rates typically go down when the market's a frown. When the market's bad, rates go low. Think post-COVID. When the market's on fire, we boost them up to try to, slow it down slightly. We want to be healthy in our growth. So we had high rates in a poor economy. It was bad. We were very far apart from getting it unlocked. So for the very first time ever, the Federal Reserve created this thing called quantitative easing, where they made trillions of dollars appear out of nowhere, and then they bought bonds so that bond rates would go down, and rates would go down and unlock the credit market. It took them 3 bouts of quantitative easing up till 2012 to really solve the problem. But they solved it artificially. There's this theorist, economist, he's an Irish-French economist that accidentally predicted the French Revolution in the 1730s. His name is Richard Cantillon. And Richard Cantillon created what was called the Cantillon effect in his book. The Cantillon effect said anytime you add money to the monetary base, or you just print money, you make more money available, new credit, the only 3 people that are going to get richer from it are the government, the billionaires, and the bankers, because they're closest to the money printer. So when we started printing all this money to create lower rates, to allow people to buy homes, we were simultaneously feeding the top of the spectrum. This is why you saw net worths jump. This is why we started seeing stock buybacks happen, because there was more money available. And that's why the stock market started to balloon. That's why insurance costs went up. This is why everything has gotten more expensive, because the wealthy have a bigger gap between failure than we do. We have a lot of households that are struggling, but not a lot of giant corporate companies that are. So what we have right now, and what got perpetuated via COVID, is the rich taking as much as they physically can, because the stockholders are more important than the actual people that have a share in this country, shareholders over those that have a share in our country. And we know that from the Dodge v. Ford case in 1916. And now we're in a place where companies are stuck. They don't have money to give jobs right now because people stopped spending money for the last 2 years. Even if they did make the job available, the amount of money that you have to make to get an employee to stay there for more than 3 to 4 years happily is way above $80, $90, $100,000, and they don't want to do that. Simultaneously, you have AI and automation and tech walking in, offering solutions to not have to do that necessarily. And you can look at a graph of when ChatGPT got released and the diversion of job openings versus stock value. It's a K. And we've been in this bifurcated K-shaped economy, or a K-shaped recovery, since COVID. The rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and people are being gaslit into thinking our economy is great and inflation's defeated. Meanwhile, we're going to keep going through this, Joey. This isn't stopping. It's been going on for more than a decade. This is not Trump. This is not Biden. This is not Bush. This is not Reagan. This is not the other Bush. This is not Clinton. This is every single one in culmination being on the same side of the same stupid coin. It's two sides of the same one. And whichever one it gets flipped to every 4 to 8 years doesn't matter. The billionaires win.
That's something that I find not just when you said it in the way you said it about shareholders uh, prioritization for our nation, right? The billionaire is, and the lobbyists are the primary we the people of this country, right? And when politicians get up and they create these legislations, these acts, these pacts, these bills, and people rally behind them, right? It doesn't seem like we understand the full consequences of what these things are that we're creating, right? For me, even learning about quantitative easing, that's a new one.
QE.
QE fucked me, right? I'm just saying, like, it just seems like there's so much there, right, economically, to discuss the exact emotional state our nation is in, right? There was a gentleman that was discussing hip hop the other day on his Instagram channel. I really loved it because he drew the parallels between economic stress and violence, right? And it was rappers saying the when my heat breaks down and my week has to go work, then I'm gonna have to rob this person or some. He did it better. Okay, I'm just saying straight up.
No, poverty is the crime rate. It's not
Yes,
race. It's not anything other than not having money.
yes. And when you said it earlier that you came from a family, right, a traditional culture, right? All of us are either the first family member to think differently or the first family members to see the world as it is today. Some people aren't. They have their heads buried into whatever they got going on. And I don't minimize that, okay? Being a human being right now in 2025 is one of the most stressful things you could do, even to the point I remember these research rats we used to work with, okay? And they're called G6 or G36 rats, okay? And the spray dolly rats. Spray dolly rats are calm, pneumatic, very kind. You can pick them up. The other rats, you even try to open their drawer, they're like going at you, dude. It's crazy. And to me, right, kind of linking my weird experiences to today in modern society, I go, everybody that I talk to seems to be those crazy rats, right? Every now and again, I run into a couple of the me too, the rats in this race, just trying to like figure things out, but they seem to be like yourself, solution oriented, all right? Well versed, articulate. Hey, what the fuck is a QE? I don't know. I just learned today. Zach taught me. Hey, right? And if you step back and go, well, how do we then, as a society, shift the momentum? Have these kind of conversations, right? Use the sword to sharpen the sword, so to speak. Still strengthen steel type of approach, and go towards these type of solutions. Because you brought it up briefly, said, "Hey, I got solutions," and I'm like, "Hey, I love solutions," okay? Because in the midst of it, all of it, whether you're that guy that's struggling right now, okay? All our listeners, everybody's in a different phase, okay? When you're that it's the first time you pick up your baby from the hospital and you're going like, "Shit, how do fucking I install a goddamn baby seat?" Okay? Well, it's preparation, it's practice, all right? It's running through. Get yourself some knowledge, get yourself some resources, ask, mentorship, all those good things, right? But it's not going to reduce the fact that you're going to have to be the one to strap that fucking seat in and be ready to drive very carefully home with that baby that first day.
That's such a funny story because when almost 7 years ago now, that same exact scenario happened where I got so locked in on, okay, how do I install this properly? Of course, the very first infant seat usually is a carrier that latches into the seat.
Yep.
And our daughter was born. Day 2 was there. It was time for me to go get the carrier out the car, pull the car up, do the whole deal. It took me 45 minutes to get the carrier out of it because I could not figure it out. But linking my weird experiences to real day life like you just did so eloquently about rats, I think there's a lot of people that get into those scenarios and get angry. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody were to come up over my shoulder, which no one did, they just watched me struggle in the parking lot, anybody did, to say, "Oh, it's if you reach under here, there's this thing and you're able to." There's a lot of people in life when they're told, "Oh, this is why it is," they wanna get mad.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get mad. They want to say, no, it's not working because it just doesn't work. I even looked it up online. I looked for a YouTube tutorial, how to do this. There was none. And the running phrase in my household now is if a tutorial doesn't exist, it shouldn't be, it isn't needed. It's very simple. And
Yeah.
you're just being dumb. And there was a giant red button and you just, and it was
It's
done.
like usually right by the head too. Like
It wasn't, it was underneath. There was a little underneath, little bit of help for me. But regardless, it was under the bottom side near the legs. But all that to be said, I want to switch gears from the economics of it to the spirituality of it. We live in a world of, especially in America, of identity politics. There are about 850 to 880 different points of view that a president or an administration have to believe in, left or right, on, from how we're going to treat war, how we're going to fund education, who the cabinet picks are going to be, how we're going to handle the healthcare industry, how we're going to handle police, all lots. And we've been bred into a world where we're taught to believe that all 808 or all, let's just call them 850 belief systems we have to align with, or else we are not a part of that party. And that divisiveness alone has now set up 850 different micro arguments you can have with your neighbor that ultimately aren't going to be the major changes and aren't going to be the major factors that lead to a better world. They're just culture wars when they want us to fight inwardly instead of upward down. So the spirituality side of it, here's what I think really, really solves things. If every single one of us, and I fight this battle every single day to get deeper into the mindset of my ego means nothing. I know absolutely nothing. I know zero in terms of the large macro knowledge base there is here in this universe on Earth. I don't know a lick about certain cultures. I don't know enough about certain history points. And to sit here and say that I have all the answers or that I know everything is just a flat lie. And we have so many people that are being shown data, facts, evidence, contrary to what they've been propagandized into aligning with, this identity politic side, red or blue, that they've been taught to believe in, that now it is an argument not of politics, but of their very identity. And if someone were to come up to you and insult your wife, there's not going to be a lot of cordial discussion, right? You know, someone says something crazy about your kid, there's not going to be a lot, oh, well, why do you think that?
Expand, extrapolate.
Please expand on why you think my daughter is that way. No, because that's a part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Sports, we see that all the time. It's part of their identity. Ruin the rest of your weekend when your team loses. And that's fine. It's whatever. But just trying to give an idea of what this looks like. It's in all parts of our life. And until we learn that our identity here on earth, I tie back to a Christian Bible reading, Christ trying to follow Yeshua spirituality, but ultimately just the spirituality of we're all connected beings intertwined on this blue rock floating in the middle of space, and we're sending missiles at each other. It's pretty wild. We have all the money in the world. We're the richest country in the world, and we have over 1 million homeless. That's kind of weird. We have a hunger problem. We can literally create food in labs now. What are we doing? I don't understand how 70% or 60% of the earth is covered in water and people don't have water. I get it's salt, but we can do something. And it frustrates me in a way that I don't feel I get overly emotional about it, because I really, really find my frustration based in empathy for the propagandized, whether it was by the school you grew up in, the college you went to, the family you were raised in, the friends you were around, the after school program you took part of, that band you were introduced to. You have been led into a life that has been aligned by others your entire life. So to get back to the ground of who we are, why we're here, and what really matters, I think peace is a absolute non-negotiable. We have to push toward. I do love that this 21-point peace plan is going into action. I have a lot of doubts as to whether or not it'll stay in action, but peace and financial survival for the basic everyday person is it's non-negotiable. And it seems to remain negotiable only to the tune of billionaire bank accounts increasing. And that for me, especially not getting raised in any type of political household, thank God, I was able to approach this when I really awoke to it in 2021, 2022 with a clean slate. And I fight every day to just inform one more person that they're not doing it wrong. One more young person, they're not stupid. One more Gen Z, they're not lazy. This system has been set up and is operating as so, and operating purposefully as so, to marginalize little by little every generation that comes after the next. And to go back to what we talked about earlier with the bubble popping, this is what leads me to believe, combined with the fact that we're built on a giant stack of debt in a bubbled economy, in a bubbled stock market where no one can afford everything, that the bubble will indeed pop. And that will lead us to either A, print trillions more money. You might see QE pop up over the winter. Or B, we allow it to pop and we reset to some kind of crypto, gold backed, BTC backed. And then there's the third scary option. China just says, we're ready to be the number one superpower and we're taking it. There's that one too. Ultimately, I do believe that if that were to happen, shelter will still be the number one thing, the number one commoditized asset that people want to hold on to. And so I don't think it leads to this bloodshed of the housing market, because it would take something greater than the Great Depression, in my opinion, to yield a market where we're getting 40 and 50% drops nationwide. Even though California is seeing a little bit of action, Florida, hurricane-prone states, Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, parts of Alaska, Honolulu, but kind of like outlier markets, not the typical American market.
See, and that's very important to really, really focus in on, right? California is not your typical market. Okay.
They have an economy that's bigger than some countries, California does.
Yes. When you peel back the layers of California, let me tell you, okay, there's so many beautiful things about California. Its governance is not one. Okay. The reasons why isn't left or right. It is outcome based. Okay. I can't say this enough as a born and raised Californian. Okay. Northern Californian, all down the coast, wherever you want to grow up, you point it. I've been around. Okay. I love California. I love Californians, right? I hate the stigma that California gets because of regions in California that are so small that you couldn't really point them on a map if you tried and said, that's where the majority of the votes are coming from, right? When you look at the scales and the remapping, I think they're calling it redistricting that Governor Newsom's trying to do right now. This has been something that California has wanted, but not this way. We do want to redistrict and recount and have things done a different way. So the left and right aren't so much the loudest voices being heard, but the majority of Californians are being heard. It's kind of your appeal to how we discuss billionaires being that primary priority of shareholders and where the outcomes are based, right? Here's a project in California, the damn fucking train that's still not there, the bullet train, right? The billions of dollars poured down the hole and nothing. The homelessness, okay? Billions of dollars down the hole and nothing. We were in a surplus for many years. That's all gone. What is Gavin Newsom doing? Okay. Nothing's getting better. The cost of living's going up. Fire insurance is forcing people out of the state. It's not just like, oh, we can't afford to rebuild our Palisades home. That sucks on top of it, right? And also, your insurance rates are going out the roof. There's no cap, there's no control. And several people where I live, they were forced out of the state because it went from like a couple $1,000s a year to $10,000 to $15,000 a year. I don't know anybody that lives in California that has those type of margins of correction or, free liquid assets, even if they're wealthy. Okay. Even if they're wealthy, you can't come up with $2,000 to $5,000 off willy nilly. It just doesn't add up here in California. Right. Even the Tesla drivers, they're like, oh my God,
where are we? Do you see a mass migration unfolding?
It has already started. Okay. Joe Rogan's talked about this because he left and everybody else that's left the state, a lot of celebrities. Okay. And that has a lot to do with their wealth, stability, and long-term goals. Okay. Has nothing to do with California. I agree with it that's smart for them to do. But when you're broke, leaving California is not an option. It's just not. What are you going to do? Move to an entire state like was it Texas, and then hopefully make sure that whatever you're investing in can rebound. We talked about the employment, right? it's very difficult to find a job that could restabilize you from California to wherever you're going. If you're relocating to like Florida, that's an entire nation across the state. If you have a family of 3, employers, sorry, don't want that. They want that single person coming out of college that's desperate to pay off whatever debt they've accumulated from their education. And they're going to nickel and dime you that first year, second year, third year. And that's kind of that routine corporate mentality, because we don't care. People are aging out, they're dying out. Look at the veteran community. We're killing ourselves out pretty much every year. Okay. And that is being leveraged to fully develop what I think is going to be California's Zootopia. Okay. And I mean it that way. We're going to be cordoned off into regions where development's going to be very nice in certain areas. And people have already brought it up, like 15-minute cities and shit like that. Right. But when you look at the development, not just in LA, but in San Diego, Sacramento, outlying areas, this is the goal. Not our goal, right? We want rural areas to have agriculture. Well, agricultural water market prices are going skyrocketing in rural areas. So they're already making the changes on the commodities and utilities and everything that you need to sustain anything in the regions where it's usually this way historically, right?
Are
Like in
your
Central
are your
California.
electric costs up too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck. I had to buy solar panels and I'm getting raped on that shit because
Good for you.
I don't even get money back from the thing, and I can't get batteries put on because I signed an NEM2 agreement, but
So
NEM3
you gotta
agreement's
so there's
worse.
this book, How to Go Off Grid.
Yeah. Is
Great
it
book
super
on
good?
how to build one of your own solar panels. Is actually
How
pretty
to go off
solid.
grid. My thing is batteries. I just need
So the
batteries.
battery side, we're double downing on. I have a storage. Now we're gonna get into my get off grid project. So 2026, I want to be fully off grid from
Nice.
manual well pump, solar panels, food production, everything. And we're gonna have so many car batteries, and I already have a home generator that is gonna be able to sustain it. So yeah, the battery part is tough, but man, the cost of the battery and the charging versus what these electric costs are beginning to look like.
It's
That gap is
insane.
growing. That gap is growing pretty significantly. I would push you toward that.
The administration fees year after year that these companies just push you into, like the water district here, sitting on districts, okay, actually getting in, not just embedded, but participating with your local community groups, committees, whatever. I highly recommend it, because then you're going to actually sit with the people that are making the decisions, and you're going to be able to ask the hard questions like, what do you mean you're increasing by 10% when national inflations and colas are only going up 3%? Well, we need to make it blah, 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 blah. Well, why is it harder to buy an acre foot of water in agricultural areas now more than ever? Well, because I love talking about water in California. Okay. There's a lot of weird technical things about water in California. There's plenty of it. Okay. There's plenty of it. Don't let anybody tell you that there's not enough water in California. Okay. The problem is that it's up north. Okay. Getting it down south, we haven't built any kind of infrastructure in many, 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 many years, let alone that fucking bullet train. Okay, don't get me started. But the infrastructure to actually provide for the population that California has, okay? LA buys a lot of the water. Okay, where is it going? Is it the population? Is it the indoor cannabis farms, which I agree with, right? But where's the primary markets? Why are our water prices going up? Local CBD organic farms locally, right? Just another agricultural venture. If it's almonds, they take a lot of water. The majority of your citrus fruits need acreages of water, right? Lots and lots of water. To get one water session for the CBD farm locally, right? It's like $2,000. Just water once for that week. And you need to water, I think they said like twice or 3 times a week. That's a huge overhead, right? And if you're in agriculture for the right reasons, because you want to provide sustenance to the United States of America or the people you love, right? Like you're getting off grid, right? You have to understand where that water comes from and how to best utilize it, right? Whether it's recapture, capturing, cleaning, right? In the military, they teach you all that different water preservation, water conservation, water cleaning, and all that different stuff for the field, right? Little tablets, and you keep your little thing upside down. You just count to 30. All right, I can drink that water now. I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
Um,
And
all
we
those
live next
things.
to a lake too, so I know I
Oh,
have
you
a
do?
great backup.
There you go, dude. Perfect. Because to me, like yourself, right? Understanding these solutions have to have a foundation, right? It can't just be like here. We can't just go, oh, we're approving thousands of condos being built right down the road in that 425 acres. Cool. We don't have water. We don't have sewage, right? We don't have electrical there, right? It's very, very, very rural. Okay. What are we developing? Okay. These other areas, like in Delaware, I've never been to Delaware, right? Your markets are beautiful, the housing is affordable, right? Again, as a California looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, everything's $400,000. Still? Oh shit, fuck, let me keep looking. All right. That finding water like yourself next to a lake. Hey, come on, guys. We have to be prepared for whatever the next phase this government, our country goes in, right? Whether it be good or bad, preparedness is the smart thing to do, whether you want to be wealthy or if you just want to be alive. Okay. Because when COVID hit, that was something that I talked about a lot on the show. Okay. A lot of authority dictated what people believed. And before we knew it, we were locked down for 2.5 years. Was it something like that? Yeah. All right. 2 weeks to about 2.5 years. If we were to do that towards anything, let's say your passionate project, right, which is affordable housing, you create a momentum where half the population in the United States just didn't go to work for like 3 to 4 days, everybody would be talking to you. They would be like, hey, what the fuck? Because you just got every billionaire's attention by plugging up everything that they do to make money for 4 days. 2 weeks would be ridiculous. 2 years, now we would own the country again. It would be the people's country, not these billionaires and prioritization of shareholders. But telling people to repeat the same mistake or because it was a cough, right? And I'm not saying it didn't kill anybody. What I'm saying is the common cold kills lots of people, right? The flu kills lots of fucking people every year. These aren't the things that societies should turn upside down for. Okay, that would be, kind of like we were discussing. If somebody said something mean to my wife, and it was something just kind of mean, and I just like fucking grabbed a Tommy gun and like laid them in half, like chopped them up, right? It'd be like, whoa, that escalated way too fast, right? And that wouldn't be okay. But if I just, said, hey, excuse me, sir, inappropriate. Or if I just punched in the schnoz once, equal reaction, equal, need. What we did with COVID, I go back and forth to the swine flu. Do you remember the swine flu?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When the swine flu hit, all right, I was a lab tech in NFL Centro and all this weird shit started coming in at middle of the night. And it was just big old truckloads of Tamiflu. Okay. And all we did was put this Tamiflu in a locked away like clinic room and sat on it. We didn't prescribe it. We didn't do anything with it. What did we just do to Tamiflu? As a nation, what do we just do as a force, a militarization force that bought millions and millions of dollars worth of Tamiflu, then sat on it, never distributed it, never prescribed it, never did shit with it? We just propped up a stock without doing anything, and it's fake because Tamiflu really doesn't help. Okay. But what it did do is kind of tell you where this is headed. The next time it was identification of flu strains, right? A and B. Who gives a fuck? It's the flu. All right. Here's the Z pack. Here's your fucking, go about your business. You're in the military. Suck it up, buttercup. Okay. After that, it was like, oh my God, you have influenza A. Then, of course, when this COVID shit hit, nobody was peeling back the layers on standards, quality assurance, quality controls. What do you mean you're getting COVID on everything? Well, if you turn up the X-ray to 1,000, you're going to be able to see through anything. Okay, so a lot of these issues were within testing models. The thing that you get like all wiry about with economics, I get wiry about medicine because it's like, hey, what do you mean that we have X amount of this or that? And what are the results of our investments here, right? What are we reducing as a medical ability? How are we improving our military force, right? How is that improvement going, even though we're spending, and this is my always favorite subject, 400 and some odd billion dollars in the VA every year, okay? The VA is a great place. If you got money for a billionaire and you could push things and lobby this way and a nonprofit to do this and that. But if you're just a common Joe trying to get, basic medical care, the way it works isn't in your favor. It's very much like how the market is. It's good luck, get what you can. There's no way you can come after me. There's no laws that protect you. You're not anything. And the worst part about it is we have this culture where we try to help each other, but we don't try those resources. Could you imagine if I, told you to go to a bank and they were that subprime lending group people, and you go in and now I just set you up for failure, right? That's something they could have caught back then and said, well, these were the people doing those subprime loans, and what they call
Ninja loans.
there you go, ninja loans.
That's the
Right?
thing. They were legal.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So they were legally allowed to set this market essentially up for failure.
Well, let me tell you a story. So the collateralized mortgage obligation was really what did the market over. The collateralized mortgage obligation was when a bank would say, okay, we have 500, what they would call performing notes. If you ever watch The Big Short, that's like the Jenga scene where they go like A plus, A, double A, all the way down. The collateralized mortgage obligation was invented in 1983 at First Boston by a man named Larry. Larry would go on to work for Blackstone. Blackstone, created by Peter G. Peterson, formerly one of the economic advisors for Nixon. Peter G. Peterson actually gave Nixon the economic report that led us to getting off of the gold standard. Same guy created Blackstone. Blackstone, he would stay with through the 80s and then would leave to create his own investment group, really based around this mortgage obligation, collateralizing investments together, and diversifying. The CMO got really popular through the 90s, and it wasn't until 1999 when we had this thing called Glass-Steagall removed that allowed all banks to participate. You used to have to be a commercial bank or an investment bank. Now you could do both: insurance, advisement, loans, whole deal. Now you can do it. 2004, the fuel that was laying on the ground was lit on fire, because in 2004, there was an SEC margin rule change that allowed companies to use this thing called margin investing on bonds. They used to be able to have one of their own dollars put into the bond market, and they were allowed to get 12 more dollars in credit to invest in it as well. It's called margin investing. It's beneficial when the stocks go up. It's very, very bad, and you get this thing called a margin call when they go down. This rule change allowed them to go 50 to 1. So for every dollar they had, they could get 49 extra dollars out of nowhere just to invest in it too.
Just
Now you have
imaginary money that, okay.
Correct. Just imaginary money. Banks, through this thing called fractional reserve banking, created a lot of the monetary expansion that we have today. But that's a whole nother subject.
So when you said that real quick, I do recall a 10 to 1, right? That was the normal banking structure.
12 to 1 was the standard up until that
12
point.
to 1. Okay.
Yeah, 12 to 1. You could expand it to 15 to 1 in some ways, but really it was blown out of proportion in 2004. So now we have all banks can do it. So 83 through the 90s, CMO gets introduced, which, if I didn't explain that properly, if you have 500 people paying their mortgage, these investors got a little bit of the interest on each and every one of those mortgages in this CMO. They only paid out when the mortgages were paid on. So you can probably go ahead and hear how that got jacked up around 2008 when people stopped paying their mortgages from 2006 on.
Yeah.
The CMO was brought in. Glass-Steagall allowed all these banks to now participate in whatever way they'd want. In 2004, put fuel on the fire, because now they can just go and invest money that hardly even existed into it. And that's why 2004 to 2007, things got really hairy for the banks. Now catch this. Bear Stearns was the first bank that fell, that started the collapse, right? And this gets back to, why do you talk about all these things? They're not connected. Shut up. 2008, March, Bear Stearns collapses. Why? They hold so many toxic CMOs. They think they're all performing notes. We know at this point that the raters were lying and that these were filled with subprime ninja bullshit. Just so much bad. But why were they bad? Bear Stearns actually knew about it. The reason they knew about it is because in 2001, they bought a company named Liquid. Now follow this. They bought a company named Liquid Funding Limited. Liquid Funding Limited is what is defined as a shell company. It was based out of Bermuda. And what Bear Stearns would do is they would ship off all of their notes over to this company. And this company would take all of the notes. Imagine all these decks of cards scattered around, bent up, wet, backwards, every which way. And they would take them, organize a nice little deck, package it out, sell it back off for a profit. They took this cruddy asset, reorganized it, sent it out, and that was Liquid Funding Limited. in ownership from Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns owned that company. 40% bought him in 2001. Now, here's where it gets nuts. Larry in the 90s went on to do his own thing, like I said. In 2008, who did the Federal Reserve call to help them? BlackRock.
BlackRock. The same
BlackRock gets called to help the Federal Reserve. Who's the CEO of BlackRock? Larry.
the same guy you said that
Same guy.
created this. Okay.
Same guy. Larry Fink.
Larry Fink. I've heard that name a lot.
Oh, you better should. I got a whole shirt where the tag says F Larry Fink on it. It's called Certified BlackRock Cater. It's in my bio. The Larry Fink saga led up to not only the problem being caused, but him being called in to solve it. Liquid Funding Limited's chairman from 2001 until late 2007, when he was arrested, right before the failure of that bank, this person that was arrested and was the chairman of Liquid Funding Limited from 2001 2007, creating those packages of CMOs that went out like financial ticking time bombs to all these other banks. His name was Jeffrey Epstein.
The same fucking Jeffrey
Same gentleman.
The same Jeffrey Epstein that hung him. Well, I don't know. Dead. He's dead, supposedly.
TBD.
That guy.
That guy. CEO of BlackRock, Jeffrey Epstein, both had a lot to do with the creation and the really just the indoctrination amongst the entire banking industry that these CMO things were great. And it led to, via also some terrible lending practices to people that shouldn't have had mortgages, banks that collapsed. And there's definitely some tinfoil hat wearers that are like, okay, he gets arrested in 2007, right before the fall happens. And then he gets arrested again in the summer of 2019, right before COVID starts. That's kind of odd. But again, that's just tinfoil connecting. This straw hat actually has a little bit of tin in it. So it's blatant and obvious that there's inward control amongst the billionaire sect, whether or not it's some kind of cabal or central banking grouping that needs to be talked about more, because it is leading to problems in every sect. Like you said, from water to pharmaceutical. We know that COVID and Pfizer and Fauci, just all of it was jacked up. We know that, I mean, my buddy, he used to raise mini horses for shows. And the reason he stopped doing it is because the megacorps were basically buying up all the horse farms and utilizing them to win all the different things. And you look at farming, all these different megacorps buying up the land, buying up the farms, because normal everyday farmers can't even survive anymore. You don't even get me started on soybean farms. Right now, they aren't getting purchased because China stopped buying our soybeans. Why? Because of the tariff. We were getting billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars almost exclusively from China buying our soybeans. China went and found a new partner. There are soybean farmers right now as we speak. There was a town hall somewhere in Arkansas the other day, as we speak, saying, I have 0 buyers for my crop. I have nobody that wants to buy the entirety of my 800-acre field of soybeans. Explain to me what I'm supposed to do. And
oh my God.
It's every direction. They're buying. BlackRock is the same group that bought the Panama Canal. They're buying electric grids. They're buying AI data centers. They just opened up and funded the largest investment trust for real estate in India. They funded the brand new Dallas Stock Exchange. Larry Fink was at the handoff of the Saudi Arabian $400 billion donated jet. He was just at the 150-person Tech Bro meeting in DC a week ago. The guy is in the system deep, and BlackRock is the #1 wealth asset holder on the planet for a reason. They know when things are going to hit, and they know how to position themselves well. And again, it all connects back to why you can't afford a home. It's billionaire wealth, greed, mammon for the biblical term, that has infiltrated the upper echelons of our society.
Dude, I agree. I'm just like, when you talk to people and you're like, hey, I wasn't ready for this conversation. This is that conversation. I usually talk about some crazy shit, all right? And it's usually insidious and complex and, conspiracy theory wise. But this is some shit that just adds the fuck up, where you're walking away from it going like, that's why my asshole's been burning for fucking 15 years, bud.
Well, let's bring it at that point. Why has it been burning? So again, deeper connection. Larry Fink's called in and BlackRock's called in 2008. What did they tell the Federal Reserve to do? They said, print money
The
Sell us,
quantitative easing thing.
yeah, quantitative easing, exactly. Print money, do this new method because QE didn't exist before 2008. Never been done anywhere. It was brand new. QE, hand us $140 billion of your toxic mortgage assets that you guys can't hold. We'll hold those for you and pay us a consult fee. Then 2020, same exact thing happens. They're brought in. What do we do? Lower the rate to zero, print more money, give us toxic assets. Here's our consult fee. And guess what I find very interesting is when you go all the way back to 1971, a lot of people point back to the gold standard being relieved from our country, the Nixon shock in August as the perpetrator of inflation because it allowed us to print limitless money without any kind of standard to back it. Uh, that report was brought forth by Peter G. Peterson, who went on to found Blackstone, that founded the very Larry Fink and BlackRock. And those are two legs of the same source. It's not two separate companies. Same with Vanguard, State Street. And in 2008 and 2020, inflationary actions were taken. Now, who benefits from the dollar inflating? Asset holders. Okay? Asset holders benefit because the dollar weakens, asset prices squeeze up. Just math. Who benefits from money printing? We know from the canteen effect, billionaires, bankers, and politicians. So who benefits from the actions that they were telling them to take? They do. 2020, we see the inflation that happens. Well, who perpetuated the printing and the lowering of the rate that allowed for that? Oh, BlackRock suggested that. Now, if BlackRock is suggesting the things, and we know the things are leading to, just based off economic facts, is going to cause monetary base expansion and inflation, and we know that that is also going to lead to inflationary spike in assets, it would only stand to wonder, who's the number one asset holder on the planet? Oh, it's BlackRock.
It's BlackRock.
So it all kind of makes sense.
So how does one leverage a private equity group like BlackRock, right? That's what they're labeled as.
Yeah, they're private equity, exactly. Which, to be simple, private equity is just private stock market. Stock market is public equity. They're investing in companies we don't have access to.
Got it. I got it. Okay. Because to me, there's so much education happening to me right now that I'm like, all right, so this is making a lot more sense for my personal issues with larger systems and governments. And of course, going back to my main focus this year is the VA, right? How is it that we get into those doors and influence these minds that are kind of creating and crafting the legislation, the issues? You can't.
You can't. Citizens United made it so you couldn't.
Citizens United.
2010 Citizens United, following the 2008 crash, following the bailouts, they sifted in this law, which I kind of akin to the Patriot Act being sifted in after 01. They sifted in this law that said that we're now allowing super PACs to have no limits on the amount that they can invest or donate to a political campaign, meaning that billionaires and corporations now, like we saw with the Dallas Mavericks owner's wife, giving something like $400 million. We're getting jets donated. All that's because we took down the barrier of entry. We basically took the public normal person out of the game. Because lobbyist used to be somebody who lobbied for the American on the lobby floor outside of Congress.
Exactly.
And now it is bribing. It's just full on multi-billion-dollar bribing. And the VA participates too, because that's the main way they do. But you said it so well. What if we were able to take that money and put it elsewhere? We have to spend all this money. Like, realtors are no different. One of the largest lobbying groups in America is the National Association of Realtors, NAR, not NRA. Different.
NAR. Got it.
Different. They influence so much. But what if that money could go towards something else? And we didn't have to spend billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars convincing politicians to do something that they're already going to make a choice on based off of their number one donor or interest matter. It's very odd to me. It's very odd to me. And do you have a moment to get into some solutions? I feel like
absolutely. I was just going to ask you that, but it's just so mind expanding, hearing you continue down this road. And any listener listening, please look him up, man. Zach Foust. One of the cool things about it is that we are talking about the problems, right? And in such a passionate way where I'm just like, I'm over here more like just listening, going, wow, we are so cooked, chat. You know how the kids say nowadays, chat, we are so cooked. Because when you look at it, there's no fucking way you could fix this problem, right? Right? But no, you just said it, and let's do it. You have some solutions. There are some solutions. What do those look like?
So, I say too much. I need to stop that.
So,
There's two categories. There's political backlash and political reordering. So we could either black out the system, do a 3.5% population labor strike. We could stop purchasing and create a system inwardly of healthcare and food and water and community that basically cuts out the consumer spend to the billionaires and force change. That's the one. But what I'm about to read for you is really on political reconstruction, something that could be after the fact of something like that or could precede it. But I don't think the billionaires like it too much. I have 5 categories. I have them written down, so I'm just going to read verbatim. Stop me or question me on any of them. There's 5 categories: monetary reform, tax the wealth, shelter shakedown, kids of America, and government reform. Monetary reform: abolish fractional reserve banking and transition to a full reserve banking system to prevent artificial inflationary pressures. And then audit the Federal Reserve to create transparency and accountability in all monetary policy decisions, not on a monthly basis, but on a daily basis. It should be able to be viewable like a stock ticker. All the numbers are monitoring. If you don't know, the Federal Reserve comes out once a month for 30 minutes of sentiment, and it moves the market to the tune of trillions. It's lagged data they're using for their CPI and their unemployment. And frankly, it needs to just be more authentic, if not abolished altogether. Tax to wealth: implement a progressive wealth tax system on corporations and individuals' net worth instead of their income. This does get into the world where you're not taxing assets. That gets hairy, but it needs to be done in one way, shape, or form. And replace property tax with land tax to encourage productive use of land and disincentivize land hoarding. As you mentioned earlier, foreign countries even getting involved in land hoarding. Another one that goes into tax to wealth, but is under my category number 3 for shelter shakedown: a 2% fee on corporate landlord home purchases at closing that gets reinvested into a first-time home buyer fund. I call it a take-a-home, make-a-home program. Just like a tax bracket, if you own more properties, we're going to give you a higher fee. If you own less properties, you get a lower fee. And if you, let's say, owned 100 properties, you're going to get hit with a 8% fee at closing against the purchase price one time. Doesn't affect your cash flow, doesn't affect anything. 8%. That will simultaneously disincentivize investor purchase and simultaneously fund normal family purchase, because that 8% of, like, let's say a $400,000 home is 32 grand that gets moved into a state-run fund for first-time buyers to utilize for down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, etc. Take a home, make a home. Next, limit the supply of single-family homes that anybody can own. I think 15 should be max. I think 50 would probably be the number it ends up falling to. Ban institutional investors from purchasing of all single-family homes. Put a 45-day offer embargo on any investor purchases, meaning a home has to sit on the market for a month and a half before any investor can place an offer. A massive public housing investment. Build 4 million homes a year within an affordable income range, sustained by a reallocation of foreign aid money. Israel. Incentivize localized housing control to slowly untangle the inherently discriminatory and racist zoning laws that hold back community growth. And enforce a 12-month vacancy fee. Homes right now, there's 16 million vacant homes in America. Of them, about 5 million. Well, a lot of them are in transition. That's an overused number. A lot of them are vacation homes. A lot of them are in transition from death or divorce. And the rest that remain are largely uninhabitable. There's about a 3 to 4 million home zone, though, that will remain vacant for 12 months or more and are livable by all standards. And those homes need to have a fee attached to them. We need to have a fee for remaining vacant. And if we did that, it would incentivize them to go into the market. It would incentivize less vacation homes. I know someone listening, I get on my vacation home. Sorry. Like, no, just go get an Airbnb when you go. Get your equity. You have a lot of it. Sell it.
That's awesome, because I'm sorry, you bring up that fee there for vacancy, and that's something that Escondido has brought in for commercial lots and commercial property.
Yep. California's been experimenting with it. Yep. You're absolutely right. There's some states that are experimenting with it. Nevada tried to pass a law for it and they didn't get it through. It's being talked about. Any questions on those first 3 categories?
No, man, they sound really fucking good. And
Oh, this is a culmination of what I've learned. This is an
Yeah.
esoteric, God bless knowledge. And I happen to agree with most of them too. But again, most are not my ideas. I've either gained from talking to people or listening to people or listen to a book, a seminar, which, by the way, if someone's looking for deeper knowledge on how 2008 to 2020 really just set in stone where we are today, I would suggest the PBS Frontline documentary, The Age of Easy Money. great listen. Very informative. 4, Kids of America. A debt jubilee. Forgive all student debt to unshackle the younger generations and boost economic activity immediately. Standardized job trainings in critical industries such as AI and modern tech healthcare practices to future-proof the workforce, as well as trades. Trades need to be taught, not just the trade itself, they need to be taught how to run the business of the trade. That's a big fall off in the trade industry.
That's a huge fall.
Huge fall off in the trade industry. They're taught how to plumb, but they're not taught about a P&L, and that limits them to have to work for another plumbing oligarch in the loop. Incentivize healthcare companies to focus on wellness and preventative care programs as opposed to caring for and treating preventable diseases. I'm sure you would be able to add a lot into the medical section, so I'll be hitting you up when I'm done with that.
Absolutely.
And lastly, the most important, I know that I'm saying this one last, but if we started here, everything else could be done. Everything else could be done. I have no doubt about it. If all of this could be done, the rest could be done. Number 5, government reform. Balance the budget every 5 to 10 years as opposed to over every term. This will allow for every term to have to balance the budget with the next term in mind, making it more America first rather than politically based. End stock buybacks and board positions for lawmakers for 10 years post-term. They cannot get any offers from an executive to say, hey, pass this law, and when you're done, we're going to give you this executive board seat. That happens all the time. Tie executive pay to median worker wages of the area, meaning a representative would be paid based off the median annual income of the area they represent. Lobbying will be grandfathered. Also, isn't that a great one? If the president's making literally what the median American worker makes, they're going to be incentivized to raise it. Lobbying, grandfathered out for all future terms. Now, this is a tough one. How do you get governor or lawmakers to say, stop taking money? I think Vivek Ramaswamy brought up a fantastic way. You grandfather it. You make them the heroes. You say, look, we're making some big changes here, and you're going to get to usher in the new America, but you can keep taking your lobbying money until you're gone. Simple. They can keep their money, and the next person that comes in knows they can't take the money and will push for people, not politics, and profit. That's what I would hope, at least.
I love that last one so much. Just on the nose of it.
Just lobbying. Yeah, lobbying right there could help so much. Enforce true antitrust laws to dismantle corporate monopolies. There's too many ways to hide it. Single issue bills. No more omnibus bills. It's jacking up everything. Big, beautiful bills, too complicated, too long. People were voting on it before they could even read it. They were voting on it within a week. It was over like 600 pages. Something great, crazy.
Some of the bills they come out with is 5,000 pages. They get 2 days to read
and
it.
nobody can read them. No. And just on top of reading them, again, we go back to this whole identity politics having to align with one of the many issues that you have to align with. They're in these bills, we're talking about everything from medical care to military pay to how we should handle teacher unions, like all of this all in one. It doesn't make sense. I understand they do it so that they can actually go through and vote on all of it. But if you need more committees, if you need more motivated people, if you need congressmen to not only work 9 months a year, then maybe that's what we got to do. 6-year term limits on all senators and representatives. No lawmaker should be in past 6 to 8 years. I don't know if there's a good argument for that, against that. Remove
Not
corporate
against
influence
it, for it. Yeah. For it. There's a lot of arguments for it.
A lot of arguments for it. Remove corporate influence from elections by enforcing strict limits on campaign contributions and implementing publicly funded elections, and disbanding the following 2 laws: Glass-Steagall's removal in 1999, which brought that up, and Citizens United in 2010. That's the main bit that I believe that could be a small chunk of change in a couple different sectors. They're all nuanced problems that require conversation. And if I was ever put in a position where some of these changes could be enacted, committees would be set up, people that are experts in these given fields that could say, okay, if we did X and Y, what would the leading result be? What could we say historically has been done? What have other countries done? What, even on a micro level, have counties and states done? Utah created 2 simultaneous bills to help builders build affordable homes and fund the first-time buyers buying them. Why can't we do that at scale over a nation? It's sick, honestly, knowing that I am not the smartest person in the room. There are a lot of people that are more endowed with knowledge and have more life experience. I'm only 31, about to be 32, and have seen much more than I've seen, and know many more people than I know that some of these things could really solve problems that just isn't being done because of money.
That's so true. And you brought up something two important parts. Happy early birthday. And
Oh, thank you, brother. October
there
19th,
you
right around the
go.
corner.
There you go. And
Yeah.
happy Navy birthday before I forget, because cheering it up. Everybody likes to remember 250 something, I think it is. Something years old. It's
The
old.
Navy's older than the country?
The Navy's old. I think so.
Because America's having their 250 in the summer. Was the Navy from 1975?
I don't know, dude. You're asking me hard questions, and I was in the Navy, all right? But I wasn't a fucking a docent, okay?
That's the first branch I wanted to get into. I wanted to actually get into the Naval Academy.
Oh, beautiful. Like
Yeah,
I
and then I realized I really hate open water. That wasn't gonna work out.
you know, I love the Navy, and I love what it represents. I love what our country represents. I love your hat because it just reminds me that
Amen, brother.
we could be doing things, right? We could all be doing these things, and we could all be doing better. And it starts with that sense of service. You brought it
Amen,
up. You're
brother.
a young man. Okay. You're 32. I just turned 40 this year. Okay. It is fucking nuts to turn 40 in 2025 and we don't have a goddamn hoverboard for me. Okay. Like that just pisses me off over all the shit we talk about economics, fucking, genocide, you fucking name it. I'm like, oh, that sucks. That sucks. Hey, we don't have a fucking hoverboard. Okay. Like I just, when I was a kid, and we used to watch, me and the kids watch Back to the Future, little, side little talk right here. But we watch Back to the Future all the time, all the whole trilogy. We watch it all the time, back and forth, right? Me and the kids talk about why isn't anything fixed and why aren't things like hoverboards in existence. I'm not saying time machine. I don't trust people that much, but definitely a hoverboard, right? And I have to tell them this kind of conversation has to be had with the adult son. Like, hey, let's be honest. It's not that we don't have the money, we don't have the technology. That definitely is not it. It's this mindset that if you're not of me, you're other than me. You're the they, all right, in this conversation, this world, this existence, and they don't get what I get because they didn't earn it, right? And that's where a lot of the billionaires and millionaires, I've worked with a lot of them, okay, with nonprofits and talking about the veteran community at a heart, at their heart, okay? And one of the things that I always peel away from it is this vulnerability that people don't genuinely usually share, but wealthy people do because they have a sense of security, at least with their wealth. Then when you take that mentality and you try to, like you said earlier, insert it to somebody having a dilemma, a problem, whether it be a baby chair that you're just like, nah, it's not clicking. Okay. It's just not. If somebody like me walked up and I was wearing a whatever shirt, completely opposite than you, or a MAGA hat, and you're on the blue side, and I go, hey, buddy, this is the way you do it. You flip shit. Everybody flips shit.
Yeah. The problem at the moment is more important than our political disagreement.
Exactly. Exactly. And the more and more people that have these conversations where we're eliminating not just the problem, right? Because that's something the military will teach you. Don't talk about fucking problems, talk about solutions. Okay. If you
Yeah.
bring in a solution, right, you're going to be met with resistance, especially given your age, given your background. You didn't graduate from the Citadel. Okay. You didn't, you weren't a 3-time elected this person or that person. But those
Nope, was
people,
kicked out of college.
oh,
Yep.
wow. Damn.
Yeah, last time I was on a college campus, it was with security escort. Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. That's some stories we're gonna have to get into, dude. Like, I mean, as we
Yeah, we'll have to do more
yeah,
episodes.
definitely have to have you back on and everything, because to me, dude, what you're talking about, it, like you said, connects dots to other things. And when you're connecting dots to other things, you're asking those deeper questions, right? What is the cause and effect, right? I'm not saying blame people, right? And I loved where you said it. It's not this, I'm not trying to go around bashing people or, saying I know better than others. It's just that I see it, you see it, that there's this solution. And if we can't put an effort to solving a problem, then what the fuck are we doing? That's
Yeah, I would love for multiple people to be in the same room. Hey, present your journal. What do you think?
yeah.
Why do you think that? What do you think the cause would be there? Okay, what's your source there? Oh, that's interesting. I, I read a I didn't read it.
I didn't
I got a book.
I read it.
I got a book when I was 17 years old, from a guy named Chris Clifford. And I need to go rebuy it, but just the title alone has stuck with me and re-hit me like 7, 8 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. It's called Win the Person, Not the Argument. And we're in just such an opposite society where our ego just wants to be right. We don't want to feel that we've been lied to. That's one of the worst feelings in the world, learning you've been lied to. And if you start to untangle the web to realize we're just all living on the monopoly board that someone else is playing on, it sucks. It sucks to realize, yeah, red and blue have both been jacking up the economy. Yeah, red and blue have both been causing war. Yeah, red and blue are both favoring the donor and the corporation over you. It sucks. And that's why I like numbers, and that's where I want to leave us with, if you don't mind.
No,
Some
absolutely.
numbers.
Yeah, we can definitely head towards that. I like numbers.
I like numbers too, and I'll have to jet after this one, but this is a number that you can send to your work harder friend. This is a number you can send to your boomer, your parents who are like, "Why aren't you winning? You should be winning just like we won." And you have some data. In 1981, I went back for 11 different separate years and found out the cost of living medians for every single possible just baseline expense: healthcare, phone. In fact, I'll read it: a median home mortgage, two children needing childcare, 2 used cars, gas for the cars, 1 student loan within your household, power, food, phone, health insurance, social security. That's it. So we're not talking about anything extravagant.
Mm-hmm.
In 1981, if you were to take all of those things I just listed and put them together, every month you'd be spending $2,171. That's 1981. Now, what's interesting is they were going through a bit of an economic crisis at the time. This was a savings and loan crisis that was sparked by some stagflation that happened in the late 70s. And so if you looked at the median income at the time, it was only $19,074. But if you totaled together all their expenses, it was $26,052. So they had a big problem. That problem was to the tune of negative $6,970. And that's the largest that deficit's ever been. And that was a significant deficit. People were struggling. But since then, 1985, 1989, 1998, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2018, 2020, and 2022, it's been a surplus. The surplus for, like, let's pick 2008. 2008, your final monthly would have been $3,995 yearly. That's $47,000. But in that same year, you would have made $50,000 as a median household. So it made sense. You could live. You could pursue the American dream at your will. But in 2024, for the very first time, in 2025 will be the same, it went back to the negative. This time in 2024, if we take the same exact numbers that led to a $26,000 yearly cost in 1981, $2,171 a month cost in 1981, if we took those same numbers and we did today, and by the way, it's not taking into account a Wi-Fi bill, a cell phone bill, the things that are going to be different. Actually, no, I lied. This one does take phone, but doesn't take Wi-Fi. Your final monthly in 2024 would be $7,368, and that's $88,416 a year. With the median income being $74,580 in 2024, that's a $13,836 in the negative. You are in the red, just trying to support the bare minimum of starting a young family in America. And when only 12.1% of Americans under the age of 30 are married with a house, and that number was over 50% before 2004, I see a problem.
Oh, yeah.
When I see young men not being able to afford having a kid, not even being interested in a spouse because they can't even get themselves out of their parents' house, I see a big issue. Because even if you get through those problems, you are then met with a mathematical problem of needing to make over $100,000 to get started. That used to be the golden ticket to doing what you wanted.
Yeah.
Now it's the getting started number. What used to be a giant checkpoint, a giant milestone, is now the starting line you're having to crawl to. And that's a gigantic, gigantic problem. And I believe a very clear leading indicator of future problems moving forward.
Dude, I agree with you so much. It sounds like more and more the American dream is becoming just that, a dream, where we have to be illusioned and we have to be delusional to believe in it from
You
this
got to
point
be
forward.
asleep to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be asleep to believe it. You need to be asleep to fucking live it. Shit, that is the truth when you brought up that statistic, and we'll wrap it up here, guys, because I know Zach is a busy man. Same here. We got some stuff to great do work on, all that good shit. But $13,000, that's doubled roughly from that
Yeah,
6,000.
13,836, so almost 14,000.
Okay. And you're looking at it from a basis of my son. Okay. My son's 14 years old. Okay. I'm not saying he's trying to plan for a family yet. Okay. But the seeds have to be planted. Okay. And if the world you live in today reflects a situation where him and my younger son, they're looking at $100,000 starting life out. Okay. We're not saying, part-time jobs aren't good. We're not saying that gig work isn't good. We're not saying, craftsmanship and trade work. No, that is not the at all. We're talking about the brass buttons, the nut, the real nuts here. Okay. The mile markers. $100,000 to start out. If I was anywhere near this on a relative plane to say, what can we do? How can we influence this? It would be, hey guys, reach out to Zach. Talk more about this situation. If you have financial questions, you have real estate desires, visions, anything like that. Because when you look at a map with facts, right? $6,000 in 81 was that was the worst, right? That's what you'd said. It's the worst. We're at 13,000. What future?
Yeah, and of course that number in 81 is a bigger number inflated.
Oh,
It might have even been worse, but
relative to
the
terms, right? We're
yeah,
still looking at the
yeah,
same thing. Okay. And if we as human beings, service members, veterans, or people that have fathers, okay, I can't say it loud enough that we as a culture and a community have to start planting these trees so our children have some shade to grow up in, because it,
sir.
it doesn't look like we're prepared to do that. You could blame it on the boomer, you could blame it on the greatest generation, right? But let's put it on our own shoulders. All right. We have the mindset, we have the able bodies, we have gentlemen like yourself, we have gentlemen that are out there, talking in ways, and young ladies in ways where, our youth are being inspired. Our me, I'm fucking older now. I'm 40 years old. I'm getting inspired. My broke ass is like, hey, get me the walker. I need to go have this conversation today. Okay. And it's no joke. It's no joke. I love to laugh, but it's no joke. And the reasons why is because, God, I really hope, all right, like a gentleman for yourself, that you hit those goals, that vision to succeed, to get into those rooms, to establish those committees, to influence these outlooks and perspectives. Like you said, even if you're wrong, hey, let's hash it out. Let's break it down, and let's see what kind of outcomes we can start getting for people. Because if we want people to buy into the American dream, we have to start getting it to be the American lifestyle, not just a dream. That's something, dude, I am just 100% behind. 100%.
Amen, brother. Thank you for creating this space for us today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. Yeah, let's get those thank yous out of the way. Today we did have Zach. Zach, man, thank you so much for being on, and the time you spent with us, the information, the history, the knowledge, the data. Data, right? If no matter what it is, you read through it and you felt better today, you're listening to Zach and I having these conversations. If your world's stressed or whatever it is you got going on, never hesitate to reach out. Okay. Listen, like, and share the Devil Doc Talk Show. Check out Zach at his links. What are your links, by the way? I almost forgot to ask you.
Yep, you can follow me Instagram, TikTok at Zachary Loft, or if you're more interested in the long form breakdowns, why things are the way they are, things like we mentioned, 2008 Epstein housing affordability, that would be on the Zach Foust Show, which is on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Amazing. I'm gonna check that out more, because when you drop that knowledge about I was not Feinstein. What the fuck is Epstein? There you go. Feinstein's another Californian politician all stirred up in the shit. That's one in my head that's just ready to go. Usually, okay.
Yeah, I'm working right now on my coup de grace on Epstein right now. Everything connected. It looks crazy. I'm building it on Canva, and when I do that, I'll have a whole show.
Dude, I'm
deep diving
stoked.
into it.
I'm so stoked. We'll share it. We'll make sure everybody listen, likes, and share that stuff too. And again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your information. And make sure you guys all listen, like, and share.
Appreciate you.